a print, as it's called. So you were public on the Mongolian exchange. I don't even know if there's an exchange here. Mongolian exchange. So you could tell people you were public. And in theory, you had a market capitalization. The total worth of the company was some gazillion dollars, but you couldn't sell any shares. There was no liquidity. But you could, tell people. A lot of people in the Middle East used to do that. A lot of people in Thailand and those countries used to do that. But it didn't accomplish anything other than you could say that you were a public company. Now, just a minute. I've been public on the London Stock Exchange, the New York Stock Exchange, the Dutch Stock Exchange. And the Dutch was the first burst. They were the first stock exchange ever in 1535, I believe. And they formed a stock exchange because of the tulip bulb fiasco, scandal, whatever you want to call it. When tulip bulb is a flower, up to equivalent of $1 million each. Only the Dutch could figure that out, but anyway, and they invented the first stock exchange, the Dutch. And in general, the Dutch are very, very canny businessmen, slick. And the joke is, copper penny was invented between a Scotsman and a Dutchman fighting over a copper penny. That's how copper wire was invented. Of course, then the joke stays an Irishman and a Scotsman, a Yorkshireman. Anyway, meaning they're all cheap, tight, mean. Mean means cheap. Are the Norwegians? They're mean too, aren't they? Aren't they cheap? No? Okay. Foreign financial institutions, banks, insurance companies, pension funds, as investors or shareholders. You want whoever will put up the money that's honest, moral, legal, ethical. Now, a very overlooked source of money are pension funds. Two of the roll-ups I'm doing right now in the United States, the last big print, as they say, or sale, were Canadian pension funds. One was 85 million and one was 1.1 billions. Pension funds have to put the money out. The next very much overlooked source of money are insurance companies. Why? Because people like you, dipshits, pay in premiums every fucking month, and they got to put the money someplace. Now, I've never met anybody other than a mentee of mine that has ever called on an insurance company. I've been doing this 45 years. I'm going to say it again, slow. I've never met anybody other than my mentees, not this room, but going back, that has ever called on an insurance company to suck out money. And Burl the Thumper Crump took 55 large ones out of an insurance company. 55 millions. That's before she got in trouble. Because she listened to me. See, women will listen. But all you guys are too smart. Not just this group, every group. Just like I tell you, go to the federal government. Go to your government to get money. You won't. Okay. Majority versus minority shareholder vis-a-vis control. You want to hang on to control as long as you humanly possibly can. But as soon as private equity comes in, you'll lose control one way or the other. And I already talked to you about clawbacks to get more of your equity back. But he who has the gold is the golden rule. Who has the gold makes the rules. And it's that simple, no matter what you do. Okay, dark side of equity funding, because there's a probability that you'll get tossed out once you lose control. But if your documents are written properly, you'll be tossed out with money in your pockets. If you're not, the documents aren't written properly, you'll just get fucked for practice. And early in my career, I got fucked for practice a couple times because I left it to somebody else to take care of the documentation instead of me looking at it with my own eyeballs. And I don't make that mistake anymore, or haven't. Okay. Now, this is a map of where the money is in the world. The dark shades, wait a minute, let's go back there. The dark shades are where the money is. Okay, the lighter shades, and you can see North America, most of Europe, Australia is where the big chunks of money are. But whatever you've heard about money is like the book that was written, Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus, is almost all wrong. Because there is no shortage of money. There's a plethora of money, and there has been even during the crisis, the crunch. But if you're only trying to get $500,000 or $1 million, you'll have trouble. If you're trying to get 25 or 50 millions, much easier. Much, much, much easier. Because they have to fill out the same amount of paperwork for a $500,000 loan as a $10 million loan. Same amount of paperwork. And I would rather put out $50 million, because I'm lazy, same paperwork, as opposed to $500,000, because $500,000 I got to do it, 100 times? Correct. That means I got to have 100 credit files, 100 this, and I would rather just do it once. I would rather just do it once. You must kiss a lot of frogs, and there, it just is. You got to kiss a lot of frogs, and it's a numbers game. Okay. Any questions?
I had a question about the foreign exchanges.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you switch from one exchange to the other? Say you are on the London Stock Exchange. Could you switch over?
You can, but it's very expensive. But for example, some of the Chinese companies have now switched from Hong Kong to Frankfurt, Hong Kong to London. Yeah, you can, but it's expensive, and so you make sure you understand what you're doing before you pick an exchange.
All the different finance options you went through over there, in your opinion, which is the easiest and quickest way to get it, or is there one?
Well, the quickest and easiest is to find a rich old lady, 95 years old, who likes to suck your dick and just write you a check. That's the quickest and easiest. It might, since you can't get it up now, it might not be the easiest for the old lady, but that's the quickest and easiest. But it's to find a vendor that will be part of the financing and get a bank or a consortium of banks that are willing to put together a quasi line, as Greg described, and be able to approach a seller with that quasi line. And in our particular case, or that particular case, the seller has been told by the accountants that, yes, Greg really does have the 140, which is kind of like the question you were asking about verifying funds. Do you have the fucking money or don't you have the fucking money? He said it a little more articulately than that, but that's the question. Now, do you have the fucking money or don't you have the fucking money? That's my best accent. I don't do it like Daniel does, but it's close enough for government work. Any other questions on that? Yes, sir.
You mentioned earlier that the documentation is needed good properly. Are we going to get a template for that in terms of...
No, the lawyers have the templates for that. I don't give you... This is not a legal class. We're not giving legal lessons here and accounting lessons. I say nothing, although I don't like GAAP, general accepted accounting principles. I'm not trying to teach. That's not what we do here. But it's all on Google, fuck. Every document, including how to make a fucking atom bombs, on Google. And I'm not suggesting you go find out about Google making bombs and shit. I'll get a bunch of shite from some idiots. Any other questions? Okay, who's 5? 6? 7? Okay, kids. Thank you. To learn more about this video and all my videos, you lazy cunts, click on this link below. Or you can go to my website, danpeña.com, and see all the fucking free material from the $50 billion man.